rolling, check. Calm and stay on the hardwood. Pump bacon, rib shaking, chilling with. I be rolling out off the hardwood, straight.
This week on Off the Hardwood, we look at the business side of professional basketball with Toronto Raptors GM Glen Grunwald, Raptor President Richard Peddie, and Antonio Davis' agent Bill Duffy. Also, our weekly highlight reel.
Off the window, no! Stick back, jam, Vince Carter.
Off the hardwood.
Look at Jerome Williams with the hustle. Carter to Antonio Davis. Monster slam from Antonio Davis.
I'm very happy that I'm back in Toronto. I kind of felt like when the season was over, there was just a lot of unfinished business. And the type of season that we had last year is just the beginning, and I feel that when you do things like this, when the organization steps up and commits to guys, it's really saying something about them. So I really want to thank the Raptors for believing in the core of our team, for believing that one day that we will have an opportunity to win a championship.
So the Raptors, swept a year ago by the Knicks, turn the tables this time and win the series 3-2 on the enemy court.
Okay, I'm here with Bill Duffy, the representative of a number of NBA players, but more importantly for the fans in Toronto, the representative for Yogi Stewart and our own Antonio Davis, who signed a long-term deal this summer. And Bill, thanks for joining us. And let's get right to this. Let's face it, in years past, Toronto was not the place to be. And there was a perspective about Toronto in years past. And what made it so bad to be here?
Well, I was always confused about that, Paul, because I think this is one of the nicest cities in the world. I travel all over the world, and I love Toronto. So I was very surprised initially when some of the first players that came here had that impression. But I think it's just from a lack of education and lack of exposure. And obviously, initially when a franchise is developed, it's going to struggle. And I think that there was the association of losing initially, which any new franchise is going to struggle. I think that kind of got overstated, that this was a losing franchise, when in actuality it just needed time to cultivate and develop, and it has, obviously.
What else has changed things besides winning in terms of this perspective, as you put it, around Toronto?
I think they've shown, what I look at franchises in terms of an urgency to win, in terms of a concept, and the fact that they're not complacent here. They'll make changes, they'll make trades, they'll fire a coach if necessary. And that shows the marketplace and the fans that we are committed to winning, and they've done all that here. So,
people describe Toronto as one of the places to play in a great game. I mean, the fans are into it. Talk about the education as you've seen it from your point of view.
Well, I think it's evolving. I don't think people are completely ignorant to basketball. Basketball is a fairly easy game to follow if you were just watching it, because you follow the score and you know that whoever has the most points at the game wins. There's an exciting element because of the creative aspect, but it's not that difficult to follow just as a regular fan. Just from communicating with people here, I think they're well aware of that. And Steve Nash, who I represent, is one of my clients. I think he's also helped elevate the profile of basketball here. And being a point guard and someone who handles the ball, I think a lot of the young kids, from what I've seen, have really they've become enamored with him. And it just takes time, and I think everyone here understands basketball. You have an exciting product. You're fortunate to have a superstar, Vince Carter, to attract even more attention. So it adds to a pretty complete picture on the evolution of it.
Antonio's re-signed with Toronto. That was a big piece to the puzzle that some people will say arguably saved this franchise, the Vince Carter signing notwithstanding. Talk about all of the considerations that go into choosing a place to play, because I know that Orlando was in the picture, Chicago was in the picture, Toronto, and all three were really pushing for Antonio's services. Talk about the overall selection.
Well, the whole concept of that is when a player becomes a free agent, it's his prerogative to entertain the marketplace, and it gets a little sensitive because the fans from the original team, feel like, well, why is he even looking elsewhere? But that's his prerogative. A player in this business can be traded at any point. His contract can be terminated at any point. So when the player has one of those few periods of time where he can dictate what happens, it's my responsibility as an agent to help guide him through the marketplace and navigate opportunities. Toronto was always fond in Antonio's mind, but you know, he ascended to a stature where he was highly in demand, and it was our job to go out and look at the marketplace. You know.
You've had a good relationship with Glen Grunwald, and you've had, you know, there've been Bill Duffy guys in and out of Toronto. Aside from money, what other things, if you could let us in on your conversations with Glen Grunwald, what kind of things do you discuss as you move towards signing a player?
Well, getting to Glen, I mean, I respect him as much as any general manager in the NBA. He's an honest guy, a straight shooter, very intelligent, and I enjoy him a lot as a person. The dynamics of our discussions were, there was obviously some continuity being established here. There was a good nucleus and something to build on, and he conveyed to us that he wanted to maintain that nucleus, of which Antonio was a vital part. And going back to your earlier reference, that I think Antonio, in some respects, did save the franchise. If I don't want to overstate that, but it was a domino effect, and I think it made it easy for Vince Carter to come back. It made it easy for Alvin to come back and Jerome Williams to come back. And Antonio, I think, triggered that. It's easy to want to be involved with the Raptor organization. I think it's one of the more quality organizations in professional basketball.
You talk about a quality organization. Sometimes, on the hockey side, people want to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs because of the history and everything associated with the franchise. The Raptors are at the other end of the scale. But have any of your players ever come to you and said, you know what, I'd like to end up in Toronto, see if you can work things so that I get to Toronto? Has that ever happened to you?
Absolutely. Anthony Carter, one of my clients, plays with Miami. We took a strong look here. I've never been reluctant for any of my rookie players, you know, through the draft process, taking a good look at Toronto. Our perception is very positive, so I haven't had any player flat out say this is the only place I want to play, but I've had no reluctance on them in terms of analyzing this as an opportunity or a potential place to play.
Carter turns the corner, baseline left, corner reverse! Air Canada, hang time in the Valley of the Sun. Oh my! At 5:66, Toronto. Here's Curry underneath Deion Clark off the window. No! Stick back jam!